think are the strongest heroes in every lane that you should be using right now? Well, if you're a solo player, you might be thinking,
none of these heroes are going to work if your team is trash.
But of course, it's still a huge advantage if you know when to pick these heroes and how to maximize their potential. Starting off with the mid lane, we have Zushin, who is still dominating the meta because she's incredibly annoying to go up against. I must say her damage isn't exactly overpowered, but she feels unfair to fight against because her skill 2, Lantern Flare, can be used as long as she has mana, and she keeps poking and knocking enemies up repeatedly. As you can see, they're struggling to get close, while I'm just maintaining a safe distance behind our roamer. She is also a huge threat in the early game because of how strong she is at harassing enemies. So if she isn't banned, especially if you're a mage user, you should be ready to pick her. The only problem with her is that she's almost always banned. In fact, she's the #1 ban from Mythic to Mythical Glory and above, because she counters almost all short-range heroes, except assassins. Aside from Zushin, Eve is another S-class mid-lane hero in the current meta. Although Eve has no knockup or other strong crowd control skills, she has stronger poke damage and slows compared to Zushin. In addition to her damage, Eve's skills are also great for kiting, making her much harder to target compared to other mages. Another major advantage of Eve is the powerful zoning control provided by her real-world manipulation. But if you're struggling to rank up using these heroes in solo rank, Cecilion might be the perfect solution. Cecilion is dominating the meta right now because, as a mage, his ultimate provides exceptional survivability with its healing effect and speed boost. And it pairs perfectly with the recently buffed Clock of Destiny, which restores 15% of HP and mana when they drop below 50%, while also offering stacked hybrid defense. And what I really like is that it also grants slow immunity, so you won't have to worry about dealing with heavy slows. What's even more impressive is that he almost feels like a marksman because he scales so well as the game goes on. And that 1 second immobilize is really frustrating to deal with. So, a quick recap on the meta picks tier. We have Zushin, Eve, Cecilion, and the last mage in their bracket is Luo Yi. She doesn't get much attention and is often ignored, but she's actually one of the strongest mages right now. Not just because of her global ultimate, but also because of her burst damage combined with continuous crowd control, providing multiple interruptions. Her skills are also super useful for securing objectives, especially during turtle fights, since you can just bounce her skill 1 off the turtle and easily land the double vacuum combo on the enemy jungler. Her diversion play is also super good at turning games around. A perfect example is this match, where YSS is getting invaded at the purple buff while the enemy team is already setting up at the turtle. YSS somehow managed to escape from Lunox, secure the purple buff, take down Mathilda, contest and secure the turtle, and even steal the enemy's purple buff, all from a single diversion play. No. By the way, that was a solo queue match in Mythical Glory, proving that Luo Yi isn't just effective in trio or 5-man, but also one of the best picks for solo rank. Now, moving on to the great picks, the first one we have is Vexana. Vexana is an effective pick against assassins, and could even be placed in the meta list. However, the main drawback is that her skills require good timing and precision, especially since her skill 1 has a long cooldown, unlike the previous heroes we mentioned, who can spam their abilities. Despite its cooldown, its Terrify and Knockback effect are very effective against fast-moving heroes, completely disrupting them from pulling off their TikTok highlights. Just a little tip, you need quick reflexes because there's no room for mistakes. If Hayabusa slows you down and manage to get close, try moving near your EG boy so you can share the damage from his shadow kill. Next, we have Aurora, another great pick and a strong counter against high-mobility heroes. What I really like about Aurora is her mix of burst damage with wide area crowd controls, and a spammable skill 1 that is super great for poking, all while having a free Winter Crown passive for extra survivability. Aurora is also a great pick for solo rank, since just poking enemies with her skills already makes a huge impact for the team. Another one is Farsa. One big reason she's a great pick right now is because of how fast she can rotate around the map. This is a huge advantage for a mid-lane hero since their main role is to assist other lanes, apply pressure so no lane struggles, and quickly respond to sudden team fights. And that's exactly what Farsa excels at. Also, if you're having a hard time dealing with long-range marksmen like Layla in the late game, Farsa is the perfect counter. And lastly, we have Jask, who remains a great pick even after the nerf, especially in solo rank. His spawns are super useful in intense fights, because enemies will hesitate whether to focus on them or not, since they deal serious damage. And if you're ahead in levels, they'll realize too late that they can't kill it, and end up dying instead. He's also a really strong mage in the late game against enemies without escape skills because he has DPS, stun, and slow. Plus, his ultimate has almost a triple blink, making it easy for him to chase down anyone caught out of position. Now, let's move on to the meta counters. We've got Kagura, Lilia, Lunox, Faramis, and Valentina. These are the mages with high survivability, which is why I think they'll always have a place in the meta. That's why you'll notice a lot of Kagura mains spamming her in ranked matches, also known as one-tricks, because her skills are great for micro play. Same with Lilia, who has a super useful ultimate for escaping potential death situations. Her black shoes can easily counter Hayabusa's shadow kill and other deadly ultimates. You can also counter any fighter and short-range heroes, because of the constant slows and damage per second she can dish out. Speaking of damage combined with mobility, Lunox is another great pick for that. One small buff could easily make her rise into the meta picks list. And then there's Faramis, who is super effective against assassins that rely on quick in-and-out plays. Their skills will just go to waste because of his ultimate. And lastly, we have Valentina, a strong counter to assassins because of her double dash and a popular counter to Lucas. It's honestly so unfair because she can keep stealing Lucas's ultimate repeatedly, since her stolen skill now depends on cooldown duration, while Lucas's ultimate doesn't follow cooldowns and only requires his bar to fill up. I'm also adding Selena to the great picks since her recent buff was really solid, and I won't be surprised if she makes a comeback in the meta. All the other mid lane heroes I didn't mention are situational picks that can shine in the right matchups.
Hello, birds! Asar!
Now moving on to roamers. We got Badang in the meta picks, the most popular one right now. Never let a Badang get close to you because once he does, you won't be able to move at all. This is one of the reasons why players hate facing him now. After his buff, his combo became much smoother and even harder to escape from. And the obstacle he can create with his second skill makes it even worse, completely trapping enemies and leaving them with no way out. On top of that, he also gains a shield, making him even harder to take down while locking his target in place. Another reason why Badang is so strong right now is how fast he can stack Thunderbelt with his skill 1, since it's considered a basic attack. Check out my stacks in this game, 60 stacks, which is almost the same as having 2 or 3 defense items, instantly giving me plus 60 physical and plus 60 magical defense. The best part is that Badang's combo and playstyle are super easy to learn. Unlike Cho and Mathilda, who are a bit more complex and take more time to master, Mathilda and Cho have a similar playstyle, both disrupting the enemy core while providing vision for the team. I'm sure you've already faced some really good players using these heroes, and it's a nightmare when they know exactly what they're doing. The difference is that Mathilda focuses more on supporting because of her Guiding Wind, which in my opinion is an overpowered skill. It gives teammates an extra dash plus a bonus shield. Mid laners love Mathilda because Guiding Wind lets them rotate around the map quickly and get back to mid even faster. When using Mathilda, don't let the enemy core farm freely, but don't overextend either. If you get too aggressive, you might get punished, which could cost you the early game. Same with Chu, just staying alive while providing vision is already a huge help since it lets your team track enemy rotations. But in the first minute of the game, you can force the enemy to use Retribution with well-timed Jeet Kune Do and Concussive Blast. And of course, we can't forget Hylos, still a super strong roamer despite the huge nerfs he received. Hylos is still a tough opponent to deal with, especially in solo rank, where players lack communication and proper coordination. His ability to apply constant pressure makes it difficult for enemies to respond effectively. Moving on to great pick list, we have Hilda, Khalid, and Jawhead. These heroes can dish out solid damage while staying durable in fights, and they are more effective nowadays compared to setter tanks because of the rise of assassins. But if you're looking for solid setters, Tigreal and Gadot are here in the great picks as well. These two are super solid in team fights, and they're at their best when enemies are grouped up. The only problem is that you need to let your teammates know you're going in. Otherwise, your setup will be wasted. I'll just put the complete tier list here since this video is getting a bit long. Here are our good picks and meta counters. Under meta counters, we have Lolita, a solid pick against projectile-based heroes like Granger and other marksmen. Mincithar, that is great for locking down heroes with multiple dashes like Harith, completely shutting down their mobility. Same as Kufra. The difference is that Kufra has even more crowd control to disrupt enemies, and his skill too has a much shorter cooldown compared to Mincithar's ultimate. Beleric is a solid counter to most marksmen, and can go head-to-head with Meta Badang, since his skills work best against dive-in heroes like Joy. Saber with his easy lock-on ultimate. Shout out to Johnson. Super underrated, but his ultimate can catch enemies off guard, set up big plays, and completely turn a fight around. And of course Diggy, the best counter for setters, to complete our roamer tier list. Now moving on to junglers. Under meta picks, we've got these heroes that are so strong, they're either first picked or instantly banned in almost every game, whether it's ranked or in the pro scene. And I just want to point out how Julian became a priority pick, and one of the strongest junglers in the meta, mainly because of the new rose gold effect. It seriously feels like it was made just for him. Meanwhile, for great picks, there are tons of solid options, and we all know how strong these heroes are. Most notably Freya, that is currently ranking 5th among the highest win rate heroes, and is even getting banned a lot in high ranks since she can easily carry games. The great thing about Freya is that as long as you farm properly, you can even take on all 5 enemies by yourself without relying on teammates. And the newly revamped Hanzo, who's definitely going to be a headache for a lot of heroes. Players just haven't fully figured out the right playstyle and item build for him yet, but give it some time, and he'll be a real problem. Under meta counters, utility junglers are making a comeback due to the latest update, which is clearly pushing their return. With some tank items getting buffed, and heroes like Baxia and Barats also receiving buffs, they're now a real threat again, and a solid counter to the meta assassins. Moving on to gold laners. We have Harith, Irithel, and Granger. Even though Granger got hit with a big nerf, he's still a pain to deal with because of his super strong early to mid game. His skills are so hard to deal with, especially when you've built up a lot of stacks. It just never seems to run out. And honestly, that's something that should get nerfed in the future updates. And speaking of lane bullies, Harith is another beast right now. His early game pressure is crazy, and even Carry, who's supposed to counter him, can struggle if the Harith player knows how to time their engages properly. That's why Irithel has climbed up in the meta. She can go toe-to-toe with these two, since she can keep dishing out basic attacks while dodging at the same time, making it easy for her to outplay them. She's also a great pick for solo rank since she can easily take over games with her mobility, plus she's been a popular choice in the pro scene lately. So here's the full tier list for gold laners this season. I won't go over each one since there aren't many changes, and I've already talked about them in my previous videos. Same goes for EXP laners. Heroes with Thunderbelt are still dominating the meta, with Lucas being the newest addition to the strongest list since he's absolutely crushing ranked matches right now. The good thing about Lucas is that, aside from his insanely strong skill 1 damage and powerful HP recovery, he's also got a ton of mobility and control immunity that makes him super hard to lock down. He also has a long-range skill that deals massive damage, making him a complete package as an EXP laner. What's crazy is that he didn't even get nerfed in the latest update, probably because the Naruto collab is coming soon. For great picks, it's mostly the same heroes, but Vengeance Julian with the Rose Gold is now a strong addition against meta EXP laners. For good picks, there are plenty of options, like Sun, who got nerfed but is still a solid choice, especially in solo rank. The problem with this kind of hero is that you need to be careful and farm early, since his true power kicks in during the mid to late game. For meta counters, we got Cece getting yet another buff, and she's still the perfect pick against those tanky EXP laners. I won't go over each one since this video is already pretty long, and again the ones I didn't mention are either situational or conditional picks. And remember, counter picks are stronger than meta picks, but comfort picks will always be stronger than both meta and counter picks.